Today, we're going to learn about how to memorize anything 10 times faster. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Memory trees. Memorization is about more than just retaining words and phrases. Well, let's say you need to memorize a difficult concept, like the parts of the brain. Most people would make a list. They'd write down all the different sections, and then one by one, they'd try to memorize each name. It's not a terrible strategy. If it's last minute, this will definitely help you score higher on a test. But what about the long term? Because flat-out memorization won't help you remember this stuff in a month or a year. When you're tackling something difficult like this, you need to strike a balance between retention and speed. In other words, you want to memorize something quickly, but you also need those memories to stick around. Remember when I said memory is about more than just words? What I meant is this. Your memory works best when it has some sort of meaning to build off of. For instance, a word with a definition is much more memorable than the word by itself. Now, going back to the brain for a moment, terms like amygdala and motor cortex don't really mean that much. On the surface, they're just a couple of very forgettable scientific terms. But what if I told you that your amygdala handles memory and emotion? It's the reason you get scared, and it influences every decision that you make. On the other hand, your motor cortex controls voluntary movement. It tells you when to wave your hands or kick your feet. Suddenly, those scientific terms aren't meaningless anymore. Now, you can place them within your larger understanding of the subject. That's because you're relating something you do understand, like movement, to something that you don't understand, like the motor cortex. These kinds of connections are branches on what's called a memory tree. Memory trees help you retain information by highlighting where terms come from and why they matter. They work especially well because they mimic the way your memory actually works. So don't try to memorize things at face value. Form meaningful connections to remember more things in less time. Number 2. Create perceptual cues. Your brain stores information from all 5 of your senses. It remembers everything, from really bitter tastes to the most enchanting sounds that you've ever heard. So, when you need to memorize something quickly, try to take advantage of your entire perceptual range. Imagine you need to memorize a phone number. You could just stare at a piece of paper until the numbers are lodged in your head. But you're only using one kind of memory, and you're not using it very well. Instead, you should find innovative ways to make those numbers stand out. Visually, you could assign them different colors or images. Acoustically, you might turn that phone number into a song, giving it a catchy little melody. You could even use taste to pair it with something sweet, like a brownie. Each time you add a new perceptual element, that phone number becomes more memorable. Let's say that someone asks you a week later to tell them what it was. You may not be able to remember that number on its own, but you can still visualize the images or sing the song you invented. These sensory cues will instantly jog your memory. So don't waste time repeating the same words for hours on end. Get creative to speed up the learning process. Number 3. Nutritional memory boosters. In 2018, one study looked at the diets of over 28,000 men. Researchers wanted to see whether fruits and vegetables really improved people's memories. This idea has been floating around for a long time. Things like diet and exercise have always been important for the health of your brain. But do they really boost your cognitive skills? Will someone who eats 4 servings of vegetables a day outperform someone who only eats 1? Turns out, it isn't just a myth. Participants who ate the most fruits and vegetables ranked at the top of the charts, while those who ate the least were all the way down at the bottom. And this wasn't just a one-time thing. This study measured participants over 20 years, and the gap only got bigger over time. So why does your diet have such a huge impact on your memory? Foods like kale, spinach, and broccoli are rich in vitamins that do 2 important things. First, they facilitate communication in the brain. The more connections that your neurons make, the faster you can think, learn, and retain information. Secondly, they reduce cognitive decline. In other words, they slow down the aging process. That means that cognitive skills like your memory will stay sharp for years to come. But fruits and vegetables aren't just a long-term memory booster. Eating the right foods while you study can dramatically improve immediate recall. Ideally, you want foods that are high in vitamins, antioxidants, and protein. That way, your energy levels stay high and your brain stays focused. It also helps to pick something portable. Sitting down for a big meal while you work can be more of a distraction than anything. So go for a handheld snack instead. Things like bananas, carrots, and protein bars are all great options to choose from. But it's not just because they're good for you. Snacking on something healthy while you study releases nervous energy too. It's almost like tapping your fingers or shaking your leg. It gives your body something to do so your mind can stay focused. Number 4. Points of interest. Personal interest plays a major role in memory. You're more likely to remember things that you actually enjoy. Your brain actively holds on to those memories while letting go of the ones you don't care about. You might remember something for decades just because you thought it was interesting when you were a kid. Now, of course, interest doesn't just extend your memory, it speeds it up too. Imagine your friend tells you something that blows your mind. Maybe they reveal that sneezes can launch as far as 20 feet, or that humans will shrink up to an inch every single day. Well, chances are these crazy facts are already stuck in your head. When something piques your interest, you grab onto it. You don't even have to tell your brain that it's important. It registers within your memory, whether you like it or not. So if you have to memorize something, get your passions involved. Find something about it that genuinely interests you. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you can find ways to connect the two together. Memory trees can be pretty helpful here. By exploring origins and meanings, you're giving your brain more opportunities to get excited. When you finally do latch onto something, your brain will have a much harder time letting go. Number 5. Various mnemonics. In 1967, a professor named Gerald R. Miller discovered that memory devices called mnemonics significantly improved recall. Mnemonics are patterns that we create to encode information in a unique way. Some are funny and strange, others are expressive and emotional, but they all essentially serve the same purpose. They give something more meaning. But what do mnemonic devices look like? There are nearly a dozen different kinds, so let's focus on the most popular ones. The first is called an expression mnemonic. If you need to remember a series of terms, create a phrase using the first letters of each word. Biology students use mnemonics like "Dear King Philip came over for good soup" to memorize the classifications of life. You can also turn these terms into a single word or name. Fanboys, for example, spells out the 7 different coordinating conjunctions in English. If you're more of a visual learner, you can try an image mnemonic. All you have to do is sketch out a picture that provides visual cues for each term. It doesn't matter what the image looks like, as long as it means something special to you. And last but not least, there are connection mnemonics. These are really simple. All you have to do is connect something new with something familiar, usually by rhyming. You might remember that a coworker's name is Larry by noticing that he's really hairy. The 2 words sound alike, so the mnemonic jogs your memory. Using these basic mnemonic devices, you can memorize just about anything in no time. Number 6. Selective memorization. Did you know that you can improve your memory by memorizing less? A lot of people make the mistake of trying to encode every little thing they come across, every grocery list, every random email. But you don't need all that inside your head. That would be like filling your bedroom with everything you've ever bought. You wouldn't be able to find the important things because they're buried under piles of junk. If you don't need to memorize something, then don't try to. This is where lists and calendars really come in handy. These organizational tools help declutter your brain. They keep track of menial responsibilities so you don't have to. Normally, you'd need to memorize your entire schedule, but now, once you write it down, you can forget all about it. This strategy helps you put the important things on top. Just think about how easy it is to find stuff when your room is neat and organized. Whether you need socks or a pencil, you know exactly where to look. Decluttering your brain does the same thing for your memory. It speeds up the process by making space for memories that are worth keeping.